The silence of the savannah was almost sacred. Only soft whimpers broke the heavy air. A tiny baby gorilla, barely 2 months old, clung to the lifeless body of its mother. Ranger Elias froze at the sight. He knew these tracks, poachers. Anger and sorrow surged through him. But the infant's cries pierced his hardened heart. He knew the truth: the baby wouldn't survive alone. Without a mother's care, not even a day. The sanctuary was too far away, and time slipped like sand through his fingers. Elias faced an impossible choice. Reason said no, but his heart whispered try. He remembered a lioness nearby, who had recently given birth to 3 cubs. The thought was insane, dangerous. But sometimes salvation demands madness. He had seen that lioness before. Her eyes burned with fierce maternal power. The baby gorilla trembled in his arms. It clung to his uniform for warmth, tiny hands gripping as if to life itself. Elias whispered softly, "Hold on, little one." Each step toward the den felt endless. Grass rustled, branches tugged at his clothes. His heartbeat thundered in his chest. But there was no turning back now. He saw her under an acacia tree. Her cubs nestled close to her belly. He gently set the gorilla on the grass, and prayed for a miracle in silence. Retreating behind a bush, he held his breath. The lioness lifted her head, her nostrils flaring at the foreign scent. The world seemed to stop. She rose slowly, majestically, and stepped toward the strange creature. Her eyes were cautious, focused, but not filled with malice. She came close and sniffed the infant. The gorilla whimpered faintly, motionless. And then, the unthinkable. The lioness nudged it gently with her nose. She took it softly by the scruff, just as she carried her own cubs, and walked back to her den. Elias couldn't believe what he saw. Tears welled in his eyes. Nature was rewriting its own laws before him. The gorilla now lay beside lion cubs. As the lioness began to lick its fur, her rough tongue, meant for flesh, moved with impossible tenderness. There was no hunger in her touch, only pure, instinctive love. The gorilla leaned closer, its tiny arms wrapping around her neck. It sought safety and warmth, and found both in a predator's embrace. The cubs accepted their new brother instantly. They slept together in a golden heap. Their clumsy play filled the den, while the lioness watched with quiet pride. From a distance, Elias kept returning. Each visit was a test of faith, and every time he saw, the miracle was still alive. The gorilla grew stronger each day. It ran through the grass with its siblings, trying to roar like a lion, making everyone's heart melt. Word of the phenomenon spread. Scientists debated in disbelief. How could a predator nurse a primate? There was no answer, only awe. Months passed, and peace reigned, until darkness returned once more. The poachers were back, the same men who had killed its mother. Elias and his team were ready, but the danger came too close. The air thickened with menace, and the lioness sensed it instantly. She rose before the den, a golden wall between death and life. Her roar split the air like thunder. And then, she was not alone. From the shadows, the pride appeared. Dozens of lions, side by side. It wasn't just instinct. It was family defending its own. The ground shook with their roar. The poachers froze in fear. Then chaos. They fled stumbling. But there was nowhere left to run. Elias and his team moved in. Justice came swiftly that night. Every poacher was caught, and the savannah finally exhaled. Years passed, and the gorilla grew. It was time to live among its kind. Elias's heart ached deeply, but he knew it had to happen. The farewell was silent, heartbreaking. The lioness nudged the gorilla softly, as if saying, "You're ready now." And the young gorilla walked away. But the bond did not fade. Sometimes it returned to the reserve, sitting quietly across from the pride, where the lioness still waited. Their reunions were wordless and pure. No roars, no cries, just knowing. In their eyes lived memory, a miracle the wild would never forget. And so the legend was born, not of beasts or man, but of love that defied instinct. and family built from compassion. The story spread far beyond the plains. Children learned of it in schools, and conservationists spoke its name as proof that empathy knows no borders. The photo of the lioness and gorilla became a symbol of hope around the world. It hung in shelters, classrooms, and sanctuaries, a reminder that love can rewrite destiny. Years later, Elias visited again. The pride was older, calmer, proud. Among them, the lioness lifted her head, and beside her, the gorilla stood, full-grown. They no longer needed protection, but their bond remained unbroken. Two hearts, once lost in tragedy, forever united by mercy and fate. And on quiet nights, beneath the acacia trees, the savanna still whispers their tale of a ranger's faith, a mother's courage, and a love strong enough to tame the wild. Years later, the savanna had changed, yet one story still whispered through the tall grass. Travelers spoke of a gorilla who walked with lions, a shadow and a sunbeam side by side. Ranger Elias, now older, still visited that acacia tree every sunrise. Sometimes, he'd catch the distant silhouette of the grown gorilla watching quietly. The world may have moved on, but the bond had never broken. At the sanctuary, the gorilla became a symbol of something greater than survival. Children would press their faces to the glass, their eyes wide with wonder. He was calm, wise, as if carrying the strength of two species in one heart. Every time he looked up at the sky, his gaze softened at the thought of the savanna. It was as if the wind still carried the lioness's breath across the plains. One quiet evening, a soft golden light bathed the horizon. The pride appeared again, not in body, but in spirit, moving with the wind. The gorilla lifted his head and listened, hearing the faint echo of a familiar roar. For a moment, the world folded into silence and peace. Somewhere, beyond what science could name, a family was whole again. Ranger Elias passed his stories to younger rangers, not as legend, but as truth. He taught them that instinct can bend, that compassion rewrites the wild. And in their hearts, the image remained, a gorilla's embrace around a lioness's neck. They learned that love is not learned, but remembered by the soul itself. The savanna, vast and endless, became a living testimony to that lesson. Now, when the sun sets behind the acacia trees, the grass whispers their names. Lioness, gorilla, Elias. Three lives woven together by something stronger than fate. The story travels beyond the plains, into hearts around the world. Because even in the fiercest wilderness, love always finds its way home. Years later, a new generation of rangers roamed the same golden plains. They spoke quietly of the lioness and the gorilla, not as myth, but as memory. In the hush of dawn, some swore they heard two heartbeats echo through the grass. The savanna seemed to breathe with them, timeless and alive. Because love, once born in the wild, never truly fades away.